Okay, Korame, let's take a look at your week 6 final project here. Pretty straightforward final, good 2-point perspective situation in place, and some really nice color work. It feels a little on the limited side, but I think what you kind of lose in variation, you're gaining in overall unity to the scene, and it is a balance, and it is, you kind of give up one but you gain in the other. And I think the color scheme is an interesting one, kind of the more turquoise green blues and the oranges. I think they actually work out nicely. The orange, I think, has the benefit of feeling very much like a terracotta in a lot of ways, and it matches the tiling that's on the floor, which is nice. It has a mixture of feeling very, very bare in a lot of ways because it's so minimal, and because the space has a lot of areas where there's not a lot of activity, with having some, high density detail, the checkerboard backsplash, for instance, being one such area, as well as the tile on the floor itself, which I think it seems to me like more than just kind of a simple perspective layout of a grid, but you're adding a little bit of nuance to it with the grout, which is kind of cool. But I do think that, for having as limited of a color scheme that's in place, the brown, orange, and green, I feel like it needs more in it to keep it, visually viable. And there's just not a whole lot of detail in a lot of areas where I think there should be. Things like having even handles on the cabinets can help to make them feel like that space is being broken up. Texturally, I think there's elements that need something on there just to create a little bit more variety than what we have right now on the surface of things. So having maybe a glossy texture on some of the things like the countertops, having a stone texture on the countertop of the island, maybe dealing with the wood texture in some way, maybe working with a metallic texture on some elements, maybe even having something like a dishwasher that's silver instead of the brown. But there's just so much uniformity going on, which, like I said, I think is good in that it creates a high amount of unity, but visual interest wise it really suffers because of it. And I think texture is one way where you can bring more variety to things. Perspective feels good, I think, overall. There's a few still kind of niggling issues. The island doesn't feel like it's quite lining up into the same perspective that the tile on the ground is. We still have this issue over here where the backsplash and the countertops feel like they actually kind of go behind the doors here, like there's kind of a room on the other side, and the countertop just kind of goes straight to it, instead of having the wall kind of come in into the backsplash area, a little bit more. And then I think the final thing would just be a complete lack of lighting and shading going on in the scene. So not having much of a distinction on the island in terms of this plane versus the top plane. No cast shadows, in place. Little bit of value change at the bottom of the cabinetry than on the top. But if you were to ask me where's the light coming from, I couldn't really give you any definitive answer because there's just no cast shadows and there's very inconsistent kind of value application. So I think in a lot of ways, it just needs more in it. I think that the decision to kind of limit things like color, are fine. But I think there's just definite things that even just dealing with the concepts of the class, like texture, like lighting, it's really needed to help kind of break up the space more and to create content.